Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to help keep dogs out of shelters by educating and supporting their humans. We promote positive method of training and behavior modification through stress-free methods. As part of that mission, we offer free webinars like the one you're about to watch. Subjects range from dog behavior, stress-free training, and other tools to help you understand your relationship with your dog. If you like the webinar, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Click the notification bell and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified when future videos are posted. Now enjoy the webinar.
All right, let's get started. So hi everyone, this is today's webinar for Your Dog's Friend. It's called Keep It Simple, 5 Skills to Teach Your Dog. It's sponsored by Your Dog's Friend, and Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to help keep dogs out of shelters by educating and supporting their humans. Since 2006, we've been promoting the use of positive dog training methods by hosting free webinars like this one, posting valuable resources on the website, and offering affordable training classes both in person and online, and providing free advice and referrals. We are passionate about our mission, so we hope that you will enjoy this webinar and spread the word about Your Dog's Friend. My name is Carrie Hoare, and I'm a volunteer with Your Dog's Friend, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Our speaker today is Beth Mullen. Beth is the owner and lead trainer of Dog Latin, serving the Washington, D.C. and surrounding areas. She serves on the board for the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers and the Montgomery County Animal Service Advisory Committee. Beth graduated from the Karen Pryor Academy and is also a certified behavior consultant, canine knowledge assessed, and a certified professional dog trainer knowledge assessed. Before we get started, just a few things to mention about today's webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put them in chat, and Beth is going to be answering questions as we go along. We will do our best to get to everything. We may answer a few at the end, or we may save a few questions that Beth thinks can be answered as part of her presentation. You will get a copy of the webinar, and with that email, we'll send it out in a few days, and that will include a link to the video of this webinar, plus any additional information that might be mentioned during the webinar. The video will also be available on our YouTube channel, along with many of our past and future webinars, so be sure to check out our channel for other great topics. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit, so if you find this webinar helpful, please consider making a donation to help support these free webinars and all of the other free resources that we offer. If you'd like to donate, you can visit our website at yourdogsfriend.org and click on the donate button in the upper right hand corner, and I will put a link to that in the chat box. We really appreciate your support. So with that, let's get started with today's webinar. I'm sure everyone is really interested to hear about how to keep it simple with dog training. So over to you, Beth.
Hey, thanks for hosting this. I have known Your Dog's Friend since probably 2009, and I am thrilled to see how it has branched across the USA and the globe. And Deborah Ackman, who founded Your Dog's Friend, is just a dedicated person, and she really wanted to keep dogs out of shelters. And from there, it's just grown to be a wonderful organization with affordable classes. So I can't speak highly enough about Your Dog's Friend. So just big round of applause for them. But I want to say thank you for joining me. I don't think dog training has to be complicated. I work with a lot of dogs experiencing fear, anxiety, and aggression. And so I came up with this presentation because I found these 5 things can really help a dog, and it's easy for dog parents and dog guardians to implement in a variety of situations. So Carrie already told a lot about me. We do work with some rescues in the area too. We have several full-time trainers. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, other social media. So let's get started with our routine, with our presentation. I feel like routine just helps dogs cope with so many of the challenges of life. I think Your Dog's Friend had a great speaker last week who talked about the unrealistic expectations of dogs. And in my lifetime, dogs' lives have significantly changed as far as the choices that they have. So hopefully these 5 skills that I'm going to talk about today can kind of help you communicate with your dog. If there's rescue people, I think these 5 skills are pretty easy to get going. You can use them in transport, fosters can use them, and then they're easily transferred to adopters. And so it's all about etching good associations, even if it's just for a moment. We're selfish. We often want the finished behavior right now. So here are a couple infographics I've done with author illustrator Lily Chin. You can find them on our website. They're free to download. This is Decompress for Success, what to do when you get a new dog, just a few little tips. I'm also really big on finding moments of yes throughout a dog's day. So we're going to talk about marker training, but once you establish a marker, I use a word. Some people use a clicker. I've used a clicker and a word. We need to tell them what we appreciate. Otherwise, a lot of these dogs, especially if they're experiencing fear or anxiety, don't have a clue. So here I put it into an infographic, find your moment of yes. It really helps you be a good observer of your dog. So the little white dog in the left-hand corner, that's my Mycelium Terrier Frankie. Not that she's a big barker, but sometimes you'll see a moment where a dog is just simply looking rather than barking. Same with the dog with the person coming in the door. The dog is running up, could have jumping on their mind, but we're saying yes to the 4 paws on the floor. We're saying yes to Frankie looking at the delivery person rather than barking and lunging. The counter surfer up in the left-hand corner, we're just saying yes for standing in the kitchen rather than having the paws up on the counter. So the 5 simple things we're going to talk about today are marker training, rewarding looking, teaching touch, teaching find it, and we're also going to touch on place. Place is sort of a body target using a towel or a mat. So what's marker training? Super simple. You're looking for your dog's behavior, whatever you appreciate, like that infographic that showed 4 paws on the floor. You were marking using a clicker. My word is yes. And I try to say it very softly and calmly, mostly because I'm working with a lot of fearful dogs. And then we're rewarding the behavior, usually with food, but I get it. Sometimes people say, hey, my dog's not food motivated, and we can talk about that. Only because sometimes if they're not taking food, is it like an adrenaline, noradrenaline hijack of the brain, and there's just no way they could eat in that moment. So how do you establish a marker? So as I said, for me, my marker is yes, softly. So I kind of say yes. I pause for a moment. I might have little tidbits of food in a bowl. I might have them in my pocket. But after I say yes, I'm pausing for like 1 second, like 1/1000. Then I'm moving my food hand. For me, it's my right hand to the food. And you're probably like, why is she making such a big point over this? That pause really helps the dog go, oh, you like it when my bottom touches the ground or when my front elbows touch the ground in a down. If we mark behavior as it's happening and pause, We're not distracting dogs by moving our food hand. Simple, but not always easy for trainers too. So marking behavior. So I'm going to show you a little video. This is Argo. I just wanted to put him in my bag and run away. This dog is the cutest. And he had his owner establish the marker by saying yes, pausing and feeding. She did that about 3-4 times. He's like, yeah, okay, I get this. Now she's introducing touch, a behavior that we're going to talk about, or a cue that we're going to talk about. So her timing was perfect. So her marker, she used a clicker, sorry. She paired the clicker by clicking, pausing, saying yes. You notice she's not talking. She's not calling that hand signal anything yet. It's because dogs pay attention to our bodies more than our constant blabbing. They get to know, oh, this behavior and this word go together. But so we're going to try to introduce our cues through body language and then attach a word. So I'm just going to play it one more time. You're going to see on that click, the second click, she is also clicking right as Argo's nose is touching her 2 fingers. Clear communication. Boom. It's that behavior that's making me click, basically saying, I appreciate that. Hold on, let me get you a piece of food. Whoops. Really good timing. She's using her marker as the Argo's nose is touching, and here she does it again. He's like, easy peasy. No one had told me. So why marker training? I think it makes us very attentive of our dogs. I can say it happens to me, it happens to clients all the time, where we are marking a behavior and the dog actually gives us a behavior, but we're on our phone, we're looking out the window, we're just walking, and we miss it. So it teaches us to pay a little bit more attention to our dogs. It's super precise. You saw that with Argos. He was like, boop, got it. Didn't know. This is great stuff. It also makes you a generous teacher. I took a knitting class once thinking, I'm going to save all this money. I'm going to knit my own sweaters. The instructor, but I was nervous, right? The instructor kept holding up my knitting saying, class, this is not what it's supposed to look like. So I kept getting kind of punished for trying. I never went back. So we have to make learning not just fun, but engaging, like, okay, I'm getting this. Otherwise, it just shuts down. So be a generous teacher. And it also is a success teacher. You're telling your dog what you appreciate. I can't emphasize that enough. Tell your dog behaviors you appreciate. It's a mind shift. We're going from no to yes, and it makes us better dog parents. So why marker training? So here is one of Dog Latin's trainers, Christina, with a Dalmatian puppy in one of our classes, and we'll see what they're going to teach. Oops. So who knew, right? She was telling the puppy, when you leave something, that's what I appreciate. I'll play it again. So the second the Dalmatian puppy disengaged from her hand, she said, yep, That's what I want. Oh, okay. Didn't know, right? It's our job to be effective communicators. Whoops, we'll go to the next one. Who is this? Oh, this is Bruce, little pitty puppy in one of our puppy classes. He's learning to walk for the first time on a leash. I mean, yes, he's walked on a leash, but he's first kind of leash lesson. So what is she doing? She's setting up the environment. She's setting up the situation to get the behavior she wants. So she's walking backwards because Bruce is following her, which then makes his leash loose, and she's clicking, or you could say yes, whatever your established marker is, at that loose leash. So I'll play it again. He's like, easy peasy. Leash walking is a skill. We have to really let them know. Otherwise, if they pull everywhere and they get to what they want to sniff or people they want to greet, we just reinforce that by letting them do that. But we have to kind of tell them what we appreciate. They're dogs, you know, they're going to do dog stuff. Okay.
Beth,
So,
we have a quick question.
oh yeah. Good.
Speaking to your dog, Richard notes that he tends to have 3 or 4 or 5 nicknames for his dog, and those just come out of his mouth naturally. Is that a problem, or does he need to use the same name all the time? He
I
says,
don't think I think our dogs are really smart. They get it. If you're using a marker signal like a clicker or yes, and I'm not sure if his question is the name, you know, if the nicknames are a marker signal or not. But if you use a marker signal, it's a promise. It's a promise of a tidbit. Sometimes the dogs don't eat it, but I still offer it. It's the power of it. Marker training fades when we get a behavior on cue, and then we can reinforce it in different ways, praise, food, whatever. So is the question, maybe he could answer, are you using the dog's nicknames as a marker?
Yeah, Richard, if you could add that in, because he does note, I have a word for yes that I use when I make him sit before going out or making him sit before he gets his food. He uses a Swedish word for you're welcome after he makes him sit and pause before doing something. But as far as the name goes, I'm not sure when he's using that. So Richard, if you could elaborate on that in chat, that would be great.
Yeah, and then sometimes on walks, this is going to be a 6th thing, you can just kind of do a kissy noise, like they turn around and look at you. I start in the house. Sometimes that can be really effective if it's eye contact that you want. But yeah, if you could clarify it, it'd be great. So one of the easiest things to do once you've established your marker and you've established it's a promise of a tidbit, and when I say you're using food, you're going to try to use food that your dog likes. Like sometimes we get it on our head, they'll love this or love this, but they don't. So you got to really experiment before you take it on the road. Some dogs that have fear, I was using all this roast beef and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this dog really isn't responding. I thought, hey, he lives with 2 little girls. He probably snacks on like crackers, or they're kind of, you know, if they drop food, maybe I should bring like Ritz crackers. And I tried that, which he really liked. But he really liked his own kibble. Sometimes if dogs have fear or anxiety, using familiar food can work. So just a little tip. So we're going to start marking the look. So say someone is exiting their house or a car, you're on a walk, your dog looks over as the door slams. We can calmly use our marker, clicker, yes, whatever. And they look at you like, what did you just say you appreciated me looking at that? Yeah, I did. I so appreciate you looking rather than barking, pulling, backing up in fear, whatever. It's such a clear communication tool. It's really, if you took Psych 101, classical conditioning, right? I think it's great, especially we live in the DC area. There's so much construction, loud trucks. They don't even have to see it. They can hear it, and you can mark and feed. And again, they might not take the food, but we're still offering. They might take the food if you give them 5-10 more yards when they feel a little bit safer. So here I've got a video of marking the look. So this is, whoops, I'm trying to just arrange my screen.
Yeah.
So this is Macaroon.
Oh,
He's
no,
looking
that
at a
was
turtle crossing the parking lot.
yeah.
He has no idea what it is. Like, what is that? Macaroon, I feel like I'm walking a Shetland pony. He's a Shepherd Great Pyrenees mix, and has started to exhibit a lot of fear behavior. So anything new, he knows the looking game. We've taught it with much simpler things. Don't start with something that they've never seen before. You can see, like, he looks at one time, but he's like, I can't take food now. I'm gonna look at that thing. I've never seen it before. Couldn't take food.
God, yes. Oh, I know. It was so
All right, he took it
yeah.
after a few looks. I still offered it, but he had never seen it, right? He's too scared to approach it. It really is confidence building. So always think about that. If your dog kind of has a furrowed brow and maybe their mouth closes that they're looking at something, that's a great yes moment. Like, oh, really? Okay, you're telling me it's okay to look at that? Okay, maybe it shouldn't be such a weird or scary thing. Here. So you may also need to give your dog some room to look, right? Especially if they're scared or concerned, they don't know something. Like, I'm scared of snakes. I don't wish them harm or anything, but I'm a lot less scared if one's across the street than right in front of my foot. So think about that. And sometimes even a few feet can help. So this is down in DC's Navy Yard. And we have a cutie here that's learning the looking game. So he just said yes for turning toward him. He said yes for looking at that dog, but that dog was pretty close. He kind of started walking there, and he turned to his dad. So we'll just see what you are. If you have questions about what he's marking, what he's saying yes to, what he's saying, wow, I appreciate that behavior, ask me. Like, you played the game, like, I see the dog, but I'm real excited. So this dog did not have reactivity, meaning he was scared, but other dogs were sort of a trigger of let's greet and let's play. So here we are. Oh no, sorry. Here we are giving the same dog a little bit more room to make the dog successful. We as the parent are always trying to set the dog up to succeed. I mean, that's impressive. Did you see how fast he does it? He's like, I'm still doing it. Is looking paying? He's like, I'll look again. So big difference of how this Shiba reacted when his dad gave him a few more feet, right? He was like, I can do it. When the dog was closer, he's just learning, this was a little too hard. So that's information for us to go, I'm going to mark the looking, but I'm also going to add some distance when I can so my dog can really succeed. The look doesn't have to be a long one. Sometimes we as dog parents get really greedy, like, let's look at that thing for 10 seconds. I don't want to look at a snake for 10 seconds if I'm scared. I'm going to go on my way. So we have to, at least at first, start marking with our clicker or word, whatever our marker is, at short looks. Because remember, sometimes some of this is scary. So this is Teddy. We are in Warsaw, Poland. Teddy is the dog of our current U.S. ambassador to Poland. I transitioned Teddy to Warsaw. We're in a park. One of the big things in Warsaw are these parks. They're beautiful, and people let their dogs off leash all the time. But there's also a lot of wildlife. I didn't see it when I was there, but the ambassador just sent me a picture of a wild boar going through the park. So here's Teddy. I'm just like, I am right off the bat going to say yes for looking at wildlife or whatever he sees in the park, because the ambassador was like, I got to be successful with Teddy. And German Shepherds sometimes have a bad rap. Oh, I'll go back and play it.
Wait, look at those birds.
So he loved to chase birds. So he kind of took that a little hard. I think he was a little excited, but new environment. Hey, we had just done an international flight, so he had gone through a lot of changes. And you can see him if you do Instagram, it's at Ambassador Teddy.
So Beth, before you go on to the next one,
yeah.
There's a couple of questions for the look game.
Yeah.
One of them kind of involves, my dog is too excited to go on a walk, so she does fine inside, but outside she doesn't take treats. She's also a heavy puller. So what would you do with a dog who is excited to be out rather than maybe anxious about being out? Yep. And then I guess my question to add to that would be, how do you tell the difference?
Oh, good question. So what do you do about that? I'm always thinking, how do I break it down? How can I make this easier? So I don't know your setup, but I'll give you some examples. One of the last of the 5 things is place. And I'm going to talk about that, which is sort of a body target. Like, oh, okay, I go to my place, I can stand on it, I can sit, I can lie down. It's just a target for their body. We're not sending them to place for a couple hours. It's just, we're going to talk about how you can use it. One thing, I would get that place going, and I'm happy to send you a relaxation exercises. They're done in units, and each unit is progressively harder, but you don't have to think about raising the criteria, right? It's already done for you. You get that going on place, because place is going to be one of the easy behaviors we talk about. This game is so easy, those relaxation, and they get it. I'm supposed to stay on my mat, and mom or dad feeds directly onto the mat. So I know where my body goes. I know where food goes. So I get that going. It becomes a game. I take that game outside if I have to, maybe on my front step, maybe with the front door closed, but I have a glass storm door. Maybe I go to a park. I put my dog in the car and I drive to a park, and I put place far away, like from a playground or something, but still where they can see. But you play this game, and they're like, yeah, normally I'd be barking or wanting to greet you, but I'm doing this game. So you have to get that game conditioned inside the home before you take it out. So I don't know if you have to go out on walks for pottying versus like a yard, but I would also try to, with the pulling, I love Freedom harnesses. I think Teddy has this on, a Freedom harness and the 8-way 8-foot leash by Boldly Design. It really gives you the best control. Why, if the harness is fitted correctly, it squeezes pressure points, calming pressure points. So I would get the looking game going inside the house first. Could be anything, you know, that they orient to a noise and look back at you, or they're just looking out the window at something. Like, get the game going inside, and sometimes using lickable food at first, like baby food, meat baby food in a jar. You can cup it in your hand and let them just have a lick. And they tend to look at what they're licking versus looking around. And then you could also kind of lure them in a different direction. Sometimes those peanut butter to go, I know it's not very eco-friendly, but you know, the little to go ones, and they have the foil thing. Just take the whole foil thing off, because if you only do it partially, the dog can eat the foil. You don't want that. So try lickables. So I hope that answers your question, but we can get back to it at the end too. So the third thing, oh, that was Teddy. So here's Teddy. We're up in the residence, actually, of the chief of mission residence at the U.S. Embassy. He loves targeting. It's touch. It's what you saw the puppy Argo, the little lab puppy, do. This cue fits anywhere. Like, you have practiced it and reinforced it so many times. You can do it 15 times a day easily, and it may take less than a minute of your day. Touch is a great redirection. So here we are, we're in a new environment, new house, big official floor downstairs, meetings are going on. He's adjusting to a new city, new food, language, everything. I'm going to get as many touches in as I can, because that's a behavior I could use outside, and they get it, and it's easy for you to get your timing. So I'm just saying yes to him and feeding. He's like, I'm almost insulted. This is so easy. So see, I have my hand a different way. When I turned it a little bit, he's like, thank you. That's your cue. So information to me, when I had my hand a certain way, he didn't perceive it as the cue. He's not being disobedient. He's just like, what? I don't know what you're asking me. So I'm marking him when he puts his nose on my hand. So watch it, and then watch the second time. I don't know what I was thinking, but obviously he was like, that is not your cue. Oh gosh, I'm going the wrong way. So there, my fingers are more pointed up. The second I kind of put them down a few inches, he was like, thank you, understood. So always be aware of what your dog perceives as the cue and what you perceive as the cue. Oh, he's such a good boy. So here's some nose targeting, the touch. This dog had a lot of anxiety and lived in a really busy neighborhood. It became a really fun game and a way to redirect from maybe something potentially scary coming up on the sidewalk. You never know. He had anxiety. He loved that game. So easy, right? And so just instead of one touch, she made a game out of it and moved touch all around. And I think he was scared. Well, he was scared a lot of things. But I think some big trucks or trash trucks were there, and she was trying, like, obviously you could hear it, but she was just trying to make trash trucks into a good experience. And touch, super easy. Oops. touch also becomes a recall. You can use it on leash. You can use it off leash. Here I know I dropped her leash, so she's kind of technically off leash, but there were no other dogs around. But this is my dog, one of my dogs, Frankie. Oh, so she was touching off camera when Biscuit, her friend, kind of photo bombed her there. But she got delayed smelling, and I just wanted to film this so you could see it. But you can practice like in your yard, you can practice in your house. Although I don't use touch in my house very much because or I do use touch in my house rather than come. I don't use come or hear very much out in my house because I save those for outdoor cues because we can really overuse those. So touch is a good thing to use indoors and then have an outdoor recall if you need one. So here I've turned touch into a recall, lot of distance here, a lot of distractions. There's toys and balls and who knows what. These Goldens are probably about a year old, but look what happens when what came out of touch. I think this was pretty impressive. They were like, I love this game.
Nice. So good, guys.
So we had started with just touch as a recall, and then I transferred the cue to come, but touch can be a really good recall. And I started just as puppies, them moving toward me and doing touch, and just they love it so much because I reward my recalls all the time. But you can build to a different recall, but you can start with touch. Sometimes touch does become your recall if you've poisoned hear or come and they only respond to it, then just transfer that to touch. Do it again because so with children, sometimes young dogs or even older dogs can jump or, kind of even knock them over. I don't know if it's because they're like smaller humans, more like playmates. I don't know. And that's what was happening in this case with Latte. She's an Australian Labradoodle and her young owner. So again, getting a lot of history of just touch. Nothing good is happening when you're jumping. It's a way to redirect. This is a young, athletic, fun dog. I think there were a lot of times Latte would try to run toward the young owner and maybe jumping was on her mind, but now the child had a tool to redirect that and not let her practice jumping. Do it again because and you noticed how she put the touch, she even finessed that on her own really well. She kind of did the touch lower, like even helping the dog out. Like if you're doing touch up here, the dog's probably going to have to maybe leave the ground a little bit. So she was a really good trainer. She figured out real fast, like, hey, I'm going to do touch a little lower. That way that even helps him not think about jumping. So here's Teddy. We were in Warsaw. He, and Basset dogs have a lot of weight on their shoulders. He had grown up around young children. I'm still going to be very careful. We went in February of 2022. So the child just reached out. The child wasn't cueing touch, but to Teddy, wow, that looks like touch. And I want Teddy to nose target to people if they do that and not be scared So that's why I taught touch to him this way. You see me teach it with 2 fingers. I just figure a lot of people reach, and I wanted Teddy go, oh yeah, I'll touch your nose instead. All right, I'll touch my nose to your hand instead. And that way it gives his handler some control of the situation, gives Teddy some agency of the situation. And I would never let him greet a child if I didn't think he was totally comfortable with it. Right, so we're moving on to the 4th one, the find it game. Couldn't be easier. All you're doing is dropping food on the floor and saying, find it, and they're hopefully eating. I use this for counter conditioning. Here I'm using it with Capri. There are 2 different snuffle mats here. The pink one is a silicone one. Really, you can even use it as a licky mat. The other one's fabric. We were just putting our kibble in there. And I'm teaching her the game of find it by having food and helping her. Well, she might already know it in this video. I can't remember which this is, but using sometimes a snuffle mat, like a target, to get the game going can be helpful, because if we're throwing it outside and they don't really know it, and there's all these distractions, it might, they're like, I can't put my head down and search. So we're doing it inside first. Whoops, sorry. No, maybe that's not a video. Oh, here it is. This is the video. So we taught it inside. She was super scared of loud noises, especially trash day. So yeah, she's snuffling a lot. She's kind of intense anyway when she snuffles. She's hearing the garbage, the trash trucks. And we started actually inside with the front door open for a few sessions, but here we are out on her front porch. They were way down the next block. Her street, it was much closer, but I didn't start there. It would be too close. Since she was so scared of noise, I just didn't want to set her up to fail. So we went outside. They were, a block and a half away. She could still see them, but she goes back to snuffling. Oh, there it is. Oh. So I marked her for looking. I said yes, and I tossed some more food on her snuffle mat. So I was kind of combining marker training and the find it game, right? Super easy, but really you have to teach some of these games inside first, so they have that conditioned response of, I know this game, I like this game, right? Because if the trigger or whatever the distraction is already out there and you haven't really taught the game, probably not going to be successful. Oops. Why it's useful. So you saw with Capri, it's a foraging behavior. So I'm all about, I don't like the term enrichment. This is what dogs need. Foraging is how they kind of became domesticated. I like food puzzles, like the snuffle mat, get it going, teach them. Some dogs really need encouragement to learn a game, but you want to make sure whatever food puzzle you're using, the dog is getting consistent reinforcement. We don't want to be like us eating one piece of rice at a time. That would be super frustrating. So we want to make sure it's like the reinforcements are regulated, not frustrating. And then foraging can be really calming because they're sniffing, they're using a ton of brain power, calming effect. It's taking those arousal chemicals down in their brain and bloodstream. You can use find it off leash. You can use it on a walk. Sometimes if I don't even want a dog to see another dog, I see the dog coming, I see a patch of Liriope, the dog's good at the game, find it. Use it just to redirect their head down and away Dog walks by. This dog doesn't even see it. You can also use it as a reinforcement. Dog sees another dog. Dog, those are triggers for this dog. I don't even have to say yes now because the find it game's so just conditioned. I can go find it as my cue, and the dog's like, yeah, sure, I'll look down. So super useful. So here we are. This is Smokey, a standard poodle rescued from a really horrible backyard breeder situation. He struggled with cars passing him on the street. So here we are off up a hill. You can see we're at a stop sign and how I'm using Find It. So he had just turned to me, so I marked it. Oh, he just saw a car. Maybe not have seen that. But you'll see.
Okay.
Oops. I guess that's it. I thought I had a better shot, but there's a car coming to the intersection and there you can see it. And he turned and looked. If I had been down right at the bottom of that street, I don't think he would have been successful at this point in his training. But so I use distance. I can also use Find It with him. Like he looks and I can say Find It. These games can be interchangeable. And then I fed him one and then I fed him and dropped. Okay. So here's advanced Find It. Here are the young golden retrievers. It was just, I'm using it as a game for some mental stimulation. They live on this very big piece of property, all these gardens, they know it. They'll search now, right? They know the Find It game. They'll search a wider area. They also don't fight over food. You can't do this if dogs are going to, if food is an issue. But these guys, it's not. Or like, any more up there? So it can be just a fun game, right? They get all the food. I don't have to worry about it. They find every piece. Obviously, you're not going to use this with dogs who would, 2 dogs at a time. If they fight over food, you're not going to use it if your dog has a problem with picking up everything in his or her mouth outside, but you could always modify it, use it inside. So you can also increase the challenge. So you can always think of ways, once your dog gets good, mix it up a little bit. Here's Macaroon again, the Shepherd Pyrenees mix that seems to have a lot of anxiety. We're visiting a vet behaviorist soon.
Yeah. Oh, I like your hat.
So we have little kids in costumes, like kind of walking down the driveway toward him. Especially with kids, I want his head down. I need to know, like, trying to navigate where they're going. Could I have moved him away? I don't think kids are really a trigger with him, but kids are unpredictable. With dogs with anxiety, I want to be really careful about running away from stuff, especially quickly. That just releases adrenaline, noradrenaline, more of it. I mean, we've already have it released, right? We don't want to increase it. So this way, doing Find It and keeping his head down, I can kind of assess like where these kids are going without kind of panicking him. Like if I grab his leash and make it tight and we were like, let's go, he's going to be, what's happening? I don't think he has a trigger around children and I want to keep it that way. So again, we'll play it.
Yeah.
The kids are coming out the top of the driveway.
Oh, I like your hat.
And they had all these costumes. I don't know again, it's not easy to film some of this stuff when you're by yourselves, but that's what was happening.
Yeah.
Beth,
So
while you have that picture, if you can pop that back,
Yeah.
somebody was asking why 2 collars and 2 leashes, and I see the one in the back is a harness that slips forward and looks like a collar, but
Yep.
they're wondering why 2 attachments and 2 leashes.
Okay, that's what I had on Teddy. I love this combination. I've actually, since Macaroon's anxiety is can be challenging, I've added a comfort trainer head collar because he's like the size, you can't tell, but it's like walking a Shetland pony, and he can take me off my feet if he does react. But if here, I'll play and see if you can whoops, see it. It's actually
Yeah.
it's a freedom
I like
harness.
your hat.
So it's a black harness, so it's hard to see, and it actually needs to be tightened. So I'm attaching this leash that I love. This is my 8-foot 8-way leash that I mentioned earlier by Boldly Design. I have it hooked on the D-ring on his back, and I have it hooked on the D-ring on his front. And then the leash comes to a V. This is my preferred combination of equipment. This is what I'm comfortable with. But that having the physics of attached in 2 places really helps if you have a dog that can take you off your feet. It also is supposed to be like, this is to loose the strap that's going behind his back legs there. But when it's fitted snugly 2 fingers into the harness, not tight, just snug, if they do kind of go to lunge, it squeezes pressure points. I don't like having leashes attached to collars. I feel like just that pressure automatically makes the dog pull away. So this is the only way I can really have some control on a big dog is that, but I just like it. Even though it's doubled over, it's still a little bit longer than a normal leash. And I feel like some of these dogs, they don't mean to pull, but it's like some of these leashes are just too short for the person walking the dog. Their strides aren't matching. I hold this, and if you've ever seen any of Michael Shikashio's talks, I do the thumb lock. I weave one of the straps through my hand, and there's actually leather grips. I prefer leather. That does come in biothane. I don't know. It's just, I find it's a great combination. I feel like a lot of clients like it. And then you're in a more secure place. I could take one of the clasp off probably the back, and you can see that there's rings along the leash. I can flip it over, make it a handle, and give him an extra long leash if I was somewhere secure and he could do more sniffing. So it's actually just one harness, one leash. The leash just has two hooks. And you can use this leash in a variety of ways. So I hope that answers the question. So the 5th behavior is place. As I said, it serves as a body target. Over time, it's just like, yeah, I don't know what to do. I'll go to place. Good things always happen on my place. It also becomes a safe resting area. Like, a lot of activity happened. Maybe I'll go over to my place. I like place to be mobile. So you can see that this is Coco. I flew to Florida. Coco's mom, who was 91, Emily Brzezinski, passed away. Coco was there, witnessed it, was having a lot of trauma. This is the ambassador's mother. The family decided Daisy. I have another client, female shepherd named Coco. Daisy would be more comfortable living out of her life in Warsaw. So I flew down. I had no idea what to expect. Everyone said Daisy was super depressed. So I'm teaching her place, and I started on her bed because I'm going to use this on the plane on the way over. She knew bed, but I want place to be mobile. I need to use place throughout our travel. So I'm just making her, I had reinforced her by putting that throw on her bed. It was actually had her mom's smell on it. So I knew that would probably be comforting. And she's like, sure, I can lie here. You keep reinforcing me. So the game for me was you can sit, lie, stand. And I'm going to show you a couple of videos on how we teach it. So here is a big rescue dog. He's so funny. And this is his mom. So how I teach plays is like I pick up a throw and I said, love on it. You got to add value. You got to sell it to your dog. And then when you put it down, they're going to look at it, sniff it, walk toward it, do something. Hey, now yes, you can mark that behavior. Like, yeah, it's a game of hot and cold, right? You can mark that behavior, any interaction, and they start to go, oh, wait a minute, I get this. So she does a great job here, this dog mom. He's like, put it down. So he went down right away. He knows this game. One of the things is she is feeding him. You saw how fast he went down. So we didn't start that way. He didn't do that. That was what we kind of wanted him to do. But she gives him a big hint in this video. So I'm going to play it again. And if anybody sees why you think he went down so fast, put it in the chat. So by feeding every time on the mat in the same spot, that is a huge hint to a dog. You know what? I should just lie down because the food goes there every time. You saw how fast Riley went down. He knew the game. He knew the food was going there. Like, I don't need to waste energy like sitting, bending over. I'll just go down. You can see it's not total relaxation. Look at his back legs. They're ready to spring up. So it's kind of, relaxation has to happen over time. It's kind of more of a cue right now of, yeah, I'll go down or I'll sit. You're just getting that, hey, you're reinforcing the dog's body being on there. So she didn't start with that, like he stood on it at first or even put two paws. But because she kept using yes, like, yeah, I love you being on the mat, even if it's only one paw, she kept feeding in the same place. And then he was like, okay. And then like his back leg moved closer on the mat. Like as he put his head down, she marked that. Like dogs get it if we keep saying, oh yeah, I like it. You got another body part on the mat. But that feeding on the mat really tells them, I should just lie down. And hopefully he's real excited about food. And this food might have been too high value for him. Hopefully you're going to a Starbucks coffee shop, you bring your towel, you put it down place, you give your dog a chew, maybe you take a couple sips of coffee, make sure you get it to go. You got a couple minutes of just place in a busier spot. Maybe that's too busy to start with, but you start to take it outside. It becomes really like a functional thing. The dog's like, I get it, I'm here, but we're also giving them something to do on place, right? Especially in the beginning. Like, maybe you even put a frozen Kong in your pocket and you walk to the coffee shop and he gets that while you have a few sips. Whoops. So here is Daisy again. I decided after 5 days, she was ready to go. I just spent 5 days, nights. I didn't leave her side. I started to bring that place into my bedroom at night. I was actually staying at the family's home in Florida, and I left my door cracked. And the first night she pushed it open and she laid down on that. I mean, it was on her mom's bed. And I thought, I was screaming in my head, like, yes, because she had to bond with me quickly. We had made the airline, we were flying when we had made the arrangements. We could have canceled at any time, but I was trying to really make the judgment call. Could she handle an international flight? She's 9 years old, just lost her mom, watched the caregiver move out. This provided some predictability, and I'd only had 5 days to work with her on this. And it wasn't like we were doing it for hours. I just picked it up a few times a day. We did place. You know, dogs get it. This is actually Teddy. The ambassador was very committed to training, knowing that taking a young German Shepherd into a busy facility can be quite challenging. He would probably be embarrassed that I'm showing him in a t-shirt and a looks like a hunting baseball cap or something. But here we're practicing in a busy Alexandria park, and there's actually a dog park right across the field. And Teddy is watching dogs come in and out. Teddy had been attacked by an off-leash dog. He had also been brought to a dog-friendly beach. And they thought maybe mistakenly thought he was going to have a great time. And then all these dogs came running toward him and while he was still on leash, and it scared the bejesus out of him. And he was like, because he was leashed, he didn't know these dogs running toward him. So that was a miscommunication on thinking of what a dog may like. So again, he was going to travel and live in Poland. So here we are. Was so glad that the ambassador was
In the
committed
video,
to
Mark?
training.
You're in the video?
Yeah. So we're just doing here. Mark's actually reading, Ambassador Brzezinski's actually reading the relaxation exercises, and we have a friend actually doing them, and I was just filming. So they're great. You know, taking place out is a great way to introduce triggers to a dog. You're like, yeah, we're just doing this place thing. Could be 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Like, you don't have to make it hard. And as I said, the dog park was across this field because Teddy had to start feeling good about other dogs. He was under pressure too, going to Warsaw and having a lot of dogs off leash in parks. So this was a great way to start to reintroduce dogs to him by just like, oh, I'm on my safe place. I know place. We're doing place, and we added some relaxation exercises that adds another layer of predictability. Okay. So really, that's it. Those are the 5 things. Feel free to email us. We post a lot of these games, the behaviors we just talked about, the 5 things on our Instagram and Facebook account, real life training with our clients with their permission, of course. So check those out. We can respond that way too. But if you have questions, I'd love to take questions.
That was fantastic, Beth. Thank you.
You're
There
welcome.
is a couple of questions kind of going backwards. Someone mentioned, so for in the house, they have a very lively dog, usually peaceful in the house, but a few times a day or night, he senses an animal outside and then bolts for the door with a loud, aggressive, sudden bark. It happens in an instant, so she doesn't think a marker would matter and
Yep.
too fast anyway.
Yep.
So we just let it pass. Is there anything better to do after or before?
Yep.
Maybe just reword the calm moments or calm response or whatever. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is what I would do. I would manage the heck out of the situation because now he's kind of got a pattern going, right? A rehearsed behavior. I sense an animal, woo, right? So now that pathway in his brain is built. So yes, you can try to train that, but if you can't really hear, you can't sense it, it's probably, you're right, your marker word's not going to work. So I usually use a brown noise app on my phone. Brown noise. I worked for a veterinarian behaviorist. She thought it with the pitch that dogs hear things. She thought brown noise blocked out outside noises better than white noise, but I don't really have any studies or anything about that. There could be. But I was just in Toronto at a Dogs in the City conference, and Kim Brophy, author of Meet Your Dog, it's a great book. She had studied under ethologist Lorna and Ray Coppinger. So you should check that out if you don't know Kim. She suggested what she thought was better than brown noise, one of those old box fans, because what you can do is, she thought the noise was blocked out outside noise better. And then if there is some kind of scent or, coming through, you can place the fan so it's blowing out the door. Like people can use that in apartments or something, like, if other dogs are walking, like just have the box fan and then turn it so the scent isn't coming into the apartment, like some dogs are kind of close to the door. So, but then if you have place, you can have your dog over there. So I think probably management to kind of break that cycle and reinforce calm moments. If you get place going, maybe try to sit in a different room if like farther away, upstairs, downstairs, try different places too.
So another person mentioned, what do you do when your dog reacts to either dogs or people with barking, to get the dog to stop? She tries to distract, but gets some awful looks. So what do you recommend for when your dog is already barking and lunging at somebody?
Because I have this video that breaks it down, like the dog's already reacting.
Yep.
But here's the video. He's already triggered. Oh, I'm pulling. So if I had a toy, I would have thrown that. I just used it I threw the kibble over his head, try to break that stare. So now he's looking at that dog and I could just stick it right up there. I'm using Find It so I can get his head to go down. I'm keeping the leash as loose as possible, not to give him any signals like, yeah, that's a little scary. I gotta hold you tight. So now he's responding. I can do Find It and even move a few feet away. I start to feed him from my hand because I want to see, is he like really taking it forcefully? That will tell me, that gives me a hint to his arousal level. So now at the end, yes, had we moved maybe 15 feet, he went from responding this way. And then people were like, oh, aren't you reinforcing the pulling? I had no expectation he was going to eat the food. He was way too aroused. So I'm also trying to use my body to block. He's like, yeah, I can get around that. I allow him like 1 second of a look. And then I kind of had food right at his nose, used it to Find It. Now I'm moving him a little bit farther away as that dog is walking up the hill. And we end before we move on with our walk. So I'm testing his, like, is he taking it really hard? Is he still really? So there he goes. He's like, oh yeah, he could get a successful repetition 1 repetition. That's all I'm looking for. If I can get that, be glad. So this is how he started and you saw how he ended. That's what I want. Like 1 moment of looking calmly at a dog. I will take that every time. And actually he's doing really good. So I hope that made some sense.
That was great. And that also demonstrated really nicely how you have the double leash hooked onto the front and the back clip of the harness too. That was
Oh, good. Yes.
use of
He's
that.
I mean, he was a strong dog. And you know, for me, I feel like I'm strong, but I'm also in the city. I want to have that double protection. Yeah, I love that combination. It works for me. I know that there are other really good harnesses and leashes. The Bold Lead design people, they guarantee all their leashes. They have like lifetime guarantees. They have some long leads that are great. I use their 12, 15-foot biothane long lead for sniffing walks for dogs, and just a really nice company. So anyway, any other questions?
Yeah, so suggestions for any dog, but this person happens to have a 56-pound pitty, highly reactive to children.
Oh, yeah. Again, this game sets it up so your dog is getting that quick look. Remember how we talked about, hey, we're marking just a moment of looking. We got to get that going first. And what we did, we added this game called the plate game from a book called Control Unleashed. So puppy eats off the plate. When he reorients, like lifts his head up, looks, she's clicking, but you can say yes. So she puts a piece of food on the plate. He's looking at like squirrels in the yard. So the game is put the food on the plate. He checks in. You play it at the dog's pace. So that's why you can play it inside first. This was during COVID, so we were playing it outside. So it was a little harder. But him looking at you, the dog looking at you, makes you mark with yes or a click, walk to the next plate, deliver food, repeat it. So once they know this kind of game, it's great. Again, we're always conditioning games inside the house and making it so that like they got to know the predictability that the game provides before we take it out. But like a game like this for a dog that has like energy and maybe like being on a mat is averse of like, I don't want to sit still when I see other dogs. This allows your dog, because it's played at their pace. Obviously, you'd have your dog on leash, but like they can take in the look of a dog across a field or half a block away or whatever the distance is, return to playing the game, right? Like hopefully, I don't know what they're thinking, but hopefully they're like, yeah, I'll get you next time, buddy. I'll be barking. Right now, I got to play this really fun game. And I know exactly what's going to happen at every step. Like, yeah, I look at mom, she clicks. We walk to the next plate. She delivers food right on the plate. And sometimes the dogs look around more or longer because they develop coping skills. Like, I can look longer and go back to the game. And you're like, yes, we're getting those moments of success. Left to their own devices, they're probably going to bark and lunge. This way, we're like, I'm playing a game. This is really cool. I don't always get to play this game with mom. I mean, I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but that's how a lot of dogs respond. And I'll even find a link. I work with a Chow Chow. I've worked with him for 3 years. The most sensitive dog to touch. Only his parents can touch him. He loves me. He wants to train. Like, woo-hoo, he's crying. He sees me. I still don't pet him. He just doesn't enjoy it. We did some simple targeting with him. We got him targeting his muzzle, his hairbrush, all sorts of things like as a consent, like, okay, here's the brush. He would touch it, and that meant we could brush him. And then he backed away. It meant he can be transferred into some really difficult situations, and you can use them like with the chow chow for brushing. Like, sure, I'll touch that. So we teach dogs how to touch nose target to your hand. We can transfer that skill, like, here, touch that. Or, your dog's kind of backing up at something and you're like, yeah, you want to touch. You can even use touch near the thing, and then you can they realize, oh, it's not scary, it's just a trash can or whatever. Then they can even, maybe they get the courage and coping skills to actually sniff the trash can and be like, oh yeah, it's not scary. So, but we always go at their pace. I never want to push a dog, because that never works. It doesn't work with people, so it's not going to work with dogs. So anyway, any other questions?
Yes, one about place.
Oh,
So,
sure.
when I've tried to introduce a place, my dog wants to play with whatever I've tried to introduce, the blanket, the towel, the bed, as a place. So how can I keep her from doing that?
That's a good question. Does your dog have an area that they usually will lie down in? You could try to get that cue going, like knowing when like you could capture it as they start to lie down in their place that they usually start to lie down in. That goes back to kind of pretending you're reading, but you're really kind of watching them, because you don't want to act like anything's exciting is going to happen, because you kind of want your dog to lie down. So you start to see them lie down. You're going to mark. You might have to get up and like, I would go feed on that place. And then maybe slowly, calmly just feed a couple things. If you have time, you can get more reps going by like tossing a snack away, trying to get your dog to come back to that, like any interaction with that area. So we could kind of create the cue of place associated with that area. And then I'm thinking to try to reintroduce some kind of towel, mat, something as part of an established cue. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. She said she doesn't have a specific spot just to crate at night, but she will play with the blanket from there if she tries to take it out. But she says, yes, what you've mentioned makes sense. So
yeah. So just like if, you're just hanging out and you're kind of pretending, but you're keeping one eye on her, you can either just start capturing every time she goes down. It'll be interesting because you can start to capture behavior and the dog's like, oh, really? And you can start to see, do they offer it more, like get up and lie down again? Like you kind of see that light bulb moment. So you might not be in the mood for training and you just capture it that one time. Maybe you're working or you're just relaxing, but if you are in the mood, then you could just, as I said, reinforce a couple times on that where she is lying down, toss one away, see if you can shape her going back to that area lying down, and you're breaking down the behavior. Maybe you have to say yes as she's heading toward that. But guess what? Now you've marked that behavior. You're just saying, yep, I know you're not at the place where you just were, but you're headed toward there. You're giving her a hint, but you're giving even more of a hint when you feed, instead of giving it to her, like handing it, like feeding her out of the palm of your hand, you're feeding on that spot. You're doing that extra hint of, not only do I like you coming toward where you were lying down a second ago, guess what? I'm going to feed you on that spot. That's going to help her go, you know what? Maybe I should lie down again. Or it's going to probably create less steps by feeding wisely, like feeding where you want your dog to go.
that sounds great. So I think that is all of the questions. So Beth, again, thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Always feel free to email us. We, as I said, post a lot of real-time training in our social media. So hopefully that's helpful to y'all too.